In my last video, we talked about how conservatives love to make jokes about baristas, which you guys really responded well to, so thank you for that. You know, we've reached almost 3,000 subscribers just off of that one video, so I love you all. Pause. No homo. While I did mention how conservatives love to harp on the joke that's been outdated for decades.
They got mochaccino, they got chocochino, frappuccino, cappuccino, rappuccino, al pacino, what the fuck?
I did not mention the one joke. The one joke so jokey that there is an entire subreddit dedicated to how much the right loves this one joke. Today we are, of course, talking about the legendary bit to own the libs once and for all. I identify as an attack helicopter. Now, I would be dishonest if I pretended like I didn't find this funny back in the day as a teenager talking shit online, watching Ben Shapiro owns feminists with facts and logic compilations on YouTube.
You know why? They deserve to feel bad about being leftist. They're siding with an evil ideology.
Yeah, I was one of those guys, you know, thinking Jordan Peterson was the answer to all my questions on my quest to masculinity. Needless to say, the answer to that quest was going outside and stop watching anime. Or maybe it was get addicted to benzos and go on Joe Rogan.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Now, this isn't going to be a video totally dunking on the right's inability to make mainstream art in general, let alone comedy, but like the boomer coffee bit in our last video, which you can check out here, there is this one bit that sits at the top of all conservative comedy. And I'm not talking about Rob Schneider bombing in a Technicolor disco suit.
Kills her himself. It's incredible. So, is that Nick Shirley over there?
What the fuck was he wearing? Originally from this random Team Fortress 2 copy pasta. Damn, remember that game? This was a long time ago. The original copy pasta was written to mock the rising Tumblr-esque SJW scene that was popping up around this time in 2014. I sexually identify as an attack helicopter. Ever since I was a boy, I dreamed of soaring over the oil fields, dropping hot, sticky, what is this? Disgusting foreigners. People say to me that as a person being a helicopter is impossible and I am fucking retarded, but I don't care. I'm beautiful, I have a plastic surgeon install rotary blades, 30mm cannons, and an AMG 114 Hellfire missile on my body. From now on, I want you guys to call me Apache, and respect my right to kill from above and kill needlessly. If you can't accept me, you're heliophobe and need to check your vehicle privilege. Thank you for being so understanding. To show you how replicated this joke has been, here is a brief montage of just some of its variants. For me, I was around 17, 18 when this whole culture war stuff was brand new to me, and as a knuckleheaded teenager, I naturally found the humor in mocking the whiny, woke Anita Sarkeesians of the world who were trying to take away my big booby anime girls. But then I grew up and learned more about the world and more about politics and began thinking for myself, as well as starting to develop my own sense of comedy and sense of humor. And I realized more and more that these right-wing brands of comedy were just stale. While I feel the left was a little overbearing with its lame poo-pooing of edgy jokes, the right was doing not so much to win me over either. Oh, and in before someone in the comments mocks me for being both sides bad type of political commentator, I don't think I'm being a radical centrist when I say this. I think I'm being normal. You guys can check out my comedy for yourselves to know I'm not one to shy away from something just because it doesn't align with me politically. Next video, I promise, we'll dunk on the left, alright? But let's get back to the subject at hand. I think nothing proves my point more than this year's Super Bowl halftime show. While the real one had Bad Bunny, one of the hottest artists out right now, Turning Point USA decided that even though our government is run by a cabal of devil-worshipping pedophiles, the true enemy to the American people was Puerto Rican pop stars. Horrifying. They're like Mexicans you can't deport. In protest, Turning Point USA gave us their own bootleg American Values halftime show featuring stars like Kid Rock and this guy. Art that is specifically marketed as right-wing or conservative is simply not as good. Now, I don't think being a Republican or being conservative necessarily precludes you from making good comedy, but when it infects the reasoning for why you're making comedy, you are just the opposite side of the coin of those stereotypical snowflake liberal comedians on the left. I don't think anybody can make good comedy when coming from a place of negativity or hate, because you are letting someone else dictate your point of view. You are too focused on the enemy to control your own narrative. It's like in a debate, you know you're losing when you can only attack the other person and you can never actually defend your own points on their own merit. Right-wing comedy is too focused on shitting on the left to ever actually be its own thing. It will always be reactive to the left rather than developing its own point of view independently. Conservative comedy never pokes fun at itself, and that leaves it in the same ditch as the whiny liberal virtue signaling comedy it sets out to mock. At face value, the helicopter joke does work. It takes a seemingly ridiculous thing that you hear people say and exaggerate it further to show how silly it really is. If a man can be a woman, then I can be a helicopter and you can't tell me no. The joke works in the grammar of comedy. As far as anti-trans jokes go, it is one of the more structurally sound bits used by the right, however played out it may be. Now, before we go any further, I'm not going to get into any actual trans discussion from here. My thoughts on that are between me and a lovely lady in Bangkok. At face value, in casual conversation, this joke does work in shutting down the idea of respecting someone's choice to be trans. If you want me to call you something, then you have to call me something ridiculous. The average person probably won't come up with a quippy comeback in the moment and has to concede the point that they won't call someone a helicopter, so therefore other people shouldn't have to respect somebody else's pronouns. Now, as an actual argument goes, this is sort of like that old playground bit where you go, does your mom know you're gay? Where no matter how you answer it, by engaging with the question, you are admitting that you're gay just based on the way it's structured, and there's no way out of it. But the actual solution is realizing you can reject the premise of the question in the first place. If I have to call a man a woman or vice versa, why don't you have to call me a helicopter? Well, because you don't really believe that. In the first place, you're not acting in good faith or honestly. You don't actually feel that way. What bugs me about this comedically is how unoriginal it is. You guys know I do a lot of roast battles, and oftentimes you'll see comedians go, "You look like X fucked Y," or "If you're here, who's doing blah 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 blah. Thank you for taking a break from such and such." Then they just plug and play a specific stereotype about their opponent and call it an original joke. I've always found that to be pretty lazy, and I do my best to avoid it when I can because I'm not trying to do Mad Libs comedy. It's not so bad to use these once or twice in a roast. When their show has multiple roasts, it starts to get grating on the audience to hear the same setup over and over again. And that's the problem with the attack helicopter bit. You just replace helicopter with something else and people act like it's a new joke. Even when you put your politics to the side, this is just lazy joke writing. Bigots. Be more creative, please. Before we move forward, if you find yourself confronted with one of these types of people, here are some comebacks you can use free of charge from old Johnny Jokes. You identify as an attack helicopter? I wish you were in Black Hawk Down. You can fit 6 dudes inside of you? Say me too and just start helicoptering your penis at them. Or, no you don't. Or if all else fails, just call them gay and move on with your life. If you look at the r/1joke subreddit, it is still active to this day with people posting this exact same joke in the wild 12 years after the original copy pasta. It really is a memeable format where you can just replace helicopter with literally anything, so that does explain the longevity. In recent years, the subreddit has evolved to be more about curating any overplayed jokes about gender or trans people, but the original recipe is still there. I'm not sure if this applies in the case of this one joke, but this is a new term I learned recently and I want to use it, so here we go. This term is similar, I guess, to a thought-terminating cliche, which is a phrase designed to shut down conversation or debate. Phrases like agree to disagree or you're overthinking this aren't actually meant to refute your point. They are meant to shut you up in the first place. I identify as an attack helicopter serves dual purposes: to mock trans people, yes, but is also designed to reject the idea of being trans in the first place. The joke isn't making fun of a man for transitioning into a woman, it's rejecting the idea that they are changing in the first place. There are a million ways to insult trans people. Believe me, I've tried. I've got the notebooks to show you. But the right clings to the attack helicopter bit so tightly because it's the only one that nips the identity in the bud. To insult trans people in any other way is to acknowledge the fact that they are, in fact, trans. The trans community is probably one of the most discussed groups in relation to its actual population, in America at least, coming in at about 1%, and is probably the most contentious group when it comes to topics for comedy. I am firmly under the belief that no group is above or below, how you want to look at it, being made fun of. And I don't really subscribe to the idea of punching down necessarily, but I do want to talk about that idea in a full video, so I want to explore that more separately. Obviously, the trans community isn't exempt from mockery or poking fun at them, but given the amount of heat on them by the government and society at large, it is more of a tightrope act to make fun of them compared to some other guy sucking cock. Dave Chappelle received heavy criticism for his material on trans people, even pulling the "I have a trans friend" card, which is a rare alternative variant of "don't worry, I can say it, I have black friends." Now, far be it from me to criticize our Lord and Savior Dave Chappelle, and I'm not here to be the comedy police, but I do think Mr. Chappelle was more interested in pushing the boundaries of what he can get away with saying because he was told not to say it, rather than mining the subject for jokes. To his credit, he did not stoop to the "I identify as" joke structure, because even though we are far from his killing him softly days, Chappelle still does have the skills to know what is and isn't hack. The attack helicopter bit is a lot like that episode of SpongeBob where he rips his pants. At first, it's hilarious and he rockets to stardom, but once people realize that's the only joke that he's got, they quickly lose interest in him, and as SpongeBob desperately tries to cling to this one joke that he's got.
You know what would go good with that?
No, what?
Ripped pants.
But instead of learning the error of his ways and breaking into song with a beached whale, conservatives continue to milk this bit dry. Drier than undilated trans pussy listening to Chappelle. I don't know, I went for it. Tell me what you guys think. Does this joke make you roll your eyes every time you see it? Do you still get a laugh out of it? Leave a comment and I'll see you next time. Bye.